Chapter 5, 167. No Escape. Sonny felt that there was a hint about what manner of a creature Mordred was in the fact that only the lost and human echoes had been allowed to guard him, but that was too little information to make a guess. What else did he know about the man who called himself the Prince of Nothing? He was reasonably sure that Mordred was a human, or at least had been once at some point. A nightmare creature could fake a human voice, but not the knowledge of the waking world that Mordred had shown. Sonny also felt that the mysterious prince had told the truth about conquering the first nightmare at 12 years of age. Other than that, all Sonny had was the description of the cruel edge, which told of a prince that had been given away to a monstrous dream spawn, and later returned only to find out that he wasn't welcome in his father's home anymore. That, and the fact that the mirror beast had been created by Mordred, much like Saint had been created by him. That was not much to go off of. With a sigh, Sonny looked around the cage. Due to the concave nature of its floor, he and Cassie were forced to stay close to each other. The only surface flat enough to sit comfortably was at the very center of the dome, and not too large in diameter. The cage was utterly empty, with the exception of a rusty bucket that was covered by a wooden lid. Sonny stared at a bucket for a while, then grimaced. "How long do you think they'll keep us here?" Cassie remained silent for a while, then answered evenly. "That depends on whether they can contain the prisoner." A deep scowl appeared on his face. Would 100 elite awakened warriors and 2 masters, all in service to a great clan, be able to handle Mordred? Before today, he would have said yes without a moment of hesitation. No matter how powerful the mysterious prince was, how could he contend against an entire army? But after seeing the terror on Sir Pierce's face and how nervous the lost were, Sonny wasn't so sure anymore. And what would happen if Mordred somehow prevailed? Would they be safe? Or would they learn that terror themselves? Crap. Sonny threw a dark glance at the door of the chamber and closed his eyes. For now, there was nothing they could do but wait. Minutes passed, slowly converging into hours. With no windows, it was hard to measure the passage of time. Sonny and Cassie mostly remained silent, partially because each was preoccupied with their own thoughts, and partially because there was nothing useful they could say. The Night Temple shuddered several more times, but these tremors weren't as strong as the first 2. Sonny silently meditated, feeling the shadow essence dissipate from his muscles and his strength slowly diminishing. After a while, he stood up, climbed to the walls of the cage, and studied the runes, then explored every centimeter of the cell. He even tried to bend and dislodge the iron bars, but it was useless. The cage seemed to be built to imprison masters, or perhaps even saints. Even at his full power, Sonny wouldn't have been able to break free with brute force. After a while, he had no choice but to slide back to the center of the dome and resume doing nothing. He hadn't had an opportunity like that in a long while. Actually, doing nothing was sort of relaxing. If he ignored the fact that their lives were hanging by a thread, of course. The blue glow of the runes and the orange light of the oil lamp were soft and dim, leaving the chamber dark and full of shadows. Somewhere outside, a gruesome massacre was perhaps taking place. But here, everything was calm and silent. Sonny was on the verge of dozing off when Cassie suddenly turned to face the door. "Someone is coming." He opened his eyes and stood up, then glanced at the oil lamp with a dark expression. Its dancing flame trembled, and then disappeared for a moment when the door opened with a bang, and a gust of wind entered the cell. 5 people came inside. 4 of them were lost warriors, their faces grim and their armor bloodied. One was the same sentinel who had locked them inside, his face ashen and pale, a piece of white cloth wrapped around his head like a makeshift bandage. The 5th was a woman with beautiful red hair, wearing a black tunic, Master Velta. There was a strange amulet in the shape of an anvil hanging on a thin chain around her neck, and murder in her eyes. The aura she emanated was truly frightening. So, Mordred did not manage to escape after all. The master threw a cold glance at Cassie, then turned to Sonny. You brought that piece of mirror into the Citadel, correct? Sonny shifted slightly. I did. The corner of Weltha's mouth twitched. Who instructed you to do so? He blinked a couple of times. What? No one instructed me. I had no idea what that shard was. I just thought that it was curious and picked it up. The beautiful woman glanced at one of the lost, who nodded. He is telling the truth, or at least believes in what he says. Sonny studied the lost, who was a man in his 30s, with a gaunt face and clear gray eyes. Great. Another walking lie detector. Weltha frowned, then pierced Sonny with a heavy gaze. What was your purpose in coming to Night Temple? Sonny hesitated for a few moments. When he spoke, his voice sounded frightened and a little shaky. I've been told that there is a special knife here on the altar. I am interested in that knife because it has to do with the past of the Chained Isles. I am a researcher at the Awakened Academy, you see. Maybe you've read my previous exploration report. It's, quite famous. The master stared at him for some time, then glanced at the lost with clear eyes, and shook her head dejectedly. All this, because of one clueless fool. Yes, I am a pathetic, useless fool, believe it. Sonny cleared his throat. Master Weltha, I am very sorry for the trouble I've caused, but, what is going on? And when are you going to release us? She suddenly let out a stifled laugh, then looked at him with a dark, furious expression. Release you? If you knew what your actions have caused, you would have begged me to keep you in this cell. At least that fiend can't get to you here. No, the two of you will remain locked up until we deal with the mess you've made. And we will deal with it, believe me. That was not exactly the answer Sonny wanted to hear, but at least it gave him some information. Mordred wasn't contained yet. Rather, he and the Valor forces seemed to be in some sort of a stalemate. Master Weltha gritted her teeth, then turned away. However, before leaving, she stopped for a moment, and then said, her voice grim, Now that the temple is sealed, no one but Lord Cormac can unseal it anyway. With the gateway destroyed, there's no escape. Where would you even go? With that, she clenched her fists and left the chamber. The four lost followed, closing the door behind them. Sonny stared at it for a while, a bleak expression on his face. No one but Lord Cormac can unseal it. Crap! The saint was not supposed to return until a month from now. He looked at Cassie, then at their cage, and lastly at the glowing runes. This was going to be a long and terrible month.